think we've got it now. Let's get on to the video. Hey guys, how's it going? So I thought today we'd sit there and have a little chat about what to look for when you're going fishing. How do you find a good area to go fishing? Now, I know you newcomers are really interested in that because you ask me all the time. How do you know where to go and fish? What do you look for to know that there are fish there? And I get asked, too, where are you fishing? Well, a good angler will never tell you their fishing spot. You know why? We're not being selfish. That we don't want the place overrun with people either, because that puts a lot of pressure on the fishery. And when you've got a pressure on the fishery, fish don't want to play. And also, I go out for the peace and quiet and to be on my own, not to be with hundreds of people that don't know what they're doing. And that's no offense about that, but really there are some people out there who really should pay attention to some of these tutorials that are up on YouTube. They might learn something. All right, getting that out of the way, get on to the next thing. Now, before you actually go fishing, there's a lot of things you need to take into consideration. Well, at least a few you should be looking at. Don't just assume that every single body of water that you come across that you can fish, because that isn't always the case. One, you need to make sure that the body of water you're fishing on, especially whether it's a part of a river or even a pond or part of a lake, that if you're land fishing, that the bank or the shoreline is not on private property. If it is, you will need permission to be on the property to fish from there. Otherwise, you can't be there. The other thing is, make sure the body of water that you're fishing at is open for fishing. Sometimes parts of rivers, streams, and ponds are closed to fishing because they may be a fishing preserve, all right, and therefore you're not allowed to fish there at all. You need to know these things, and you can get this information online from your local outdoor authority, whatever the laws or acts are that are for your particular state or province. They will give you that information telling you what times of year you can fish in certain rivers, certain streams, certain lakes. Now here in Ontario, we have 21 different fishing management zones, and they're all slightly different. And it's not unusual to be on a river where you cross over into other fishing management zones. So you better have a working understanding of what you're allowed to do there. In this day and age, our environment enforcement staff are not taking, they're not taking prisoners, guys. There's a lot of fines being handed out to people who don't look at the regulations, because the attitude in the court system here is, you're a responsible adult. It's up to you to do your homework before you go out. And I can't stress this enough, all right? Keep it in mind. Check where you're going, that you can fish there. Don't assume that it's just open to you to go and do whatever you want. Check to make sure the species that you're looking for is in season. All right? These are all things that you should do before you go and throw the line out in the water. Now, that being said, and I've probably scared a lot of you off, thinking, oh, my God, it's so technical. No, it isn't. It's just a matter of knowing where you can go. All right? That's all. With that being said, I'm going to point you to a diagram here, and it's going to start showing you some of the things you should look for when you come to a body of water, whether it's a creek, a stream, a river, a pond, or a lake. Some of the characteristics that you should be looking for in the water that can help you increase your bite ratio. All right? Okay. But it's actually a very good one. It shows you how to pick out good fishing spots. So one of the things you want to watch for, especially if you are in a stream or a creek, you're going to look for things like bends in the banks. Because those bends, usually the current of the river or the stream cuts and undercuts underneath the bank. And these are places that fish love to hide. Remember, fish like and need cover. They need it to survive. They also need it so they can ambush their prey. And the eddies and the currents have a tendency to cut under those banks there. And when the weather's a bit bright or a bit warm, fish will seek refuge in those areas. All right? Because one of the best places to go is just to drop a line down in front of the bank there to see what's hiding underneath the bank. You'd be surprised what you might find there. Now, another area to look at are these eddies. This is where the water is bubbling and streaming along, kind of ruffle type of thing, or circling around. Fish like to conjugate around these areas too, because these eddies have a tendency to carry food. All right, so there's the lunch bell ringing. Also, it oxygenates the water, so the fish can actually breathe easier. So they like hanging around these eddies because there's food. It's more comfortable for them. Now, even in still water is still an area that you can look for. But, keep in mind that if they're eddies, more than likely fish are going to be just around the edges of the eddies. Not right in them, but they're going to be in the edges of the eddies. Inlets, that's another one. That's another good area to look for, where the two waters meet, especially if it's going out to a larger body of water. There's probably an undercurrent of such. This, again, will bring down food, and this is where fish like to congregate. Now, we go around to where there's small islands. Again, same thing. In between small islands, not far off the shore. Fish like to congregate in these areas too. Again, for sources of food, for cover, those type of things. Deep holes and springs. Again, another area to look for. If you know there's a spring there, or you can see a deep hole in the water, try there. Throw your line down there and see if anything's down there. Again, this is another area where moving water can bring food, and it can bring oxygenation to that area, to the water. Now, we go over here to the weeds and reeds. Great area for bass, great area for pike. This is where fish love to hide. All right, this is where they can take cover, not only from their own predators, but anglers as well. They like to hide in there. That's another area, especially around the edges. Fish seem to like to hover in those areas. If you throw a swim bait out there and bring it through the weeds, make sure it's weedless. So this can usually guarantee some results. Sandbars, well, around the sandbars, you might find some fish in the shaded areas. Docks. Ugh. Docks are the greatest. Now, listen to me, docks. People get very weird about their docks, all right? Docks are usually private property. There's no law about fishing around a dock if you're on the water. They can't tell you, I'm not going to get into the dock now. I've had a few in my time. Just make sure you're not throwing your lure up onto the dock or too close to boats and stuff like that. Just, be courteous, all right? If someone comes out and says something, just move on and then maybe come back later on. But the dock itself is private property, so don't be interfering with it. The water itself is not private property, unless the lake is on private land. But if you're out in a lake that's on crown land or state land, then that water belongs to the province or the state. You could be out there fishing, but watch it when you're around docks. But it is a good place to shoot for smallmouth bass. Dams, another good area. If you know an area that has a dam, but be very careful. All right, around dams, they can be very dangerous. People sometimes forget their safety around dams. Usually down at the bottom of the dam, as the water is eddying and bubbling around, that's where you might find a good mess of fish down there. But again, I stress safety around dams. Don't be careful if you're kayak fishing or you're in a canoe or something like that. And even on the edge, don't be fishing from the top of the dam. And in most cases, you're not allowed to do that because of safety. But down on the bottom, if you can get access down to the bottom of the dam, on the shoreline, that is a very good place to fish. Submerged rocks and piles, old bridge pilings, etc., those things like that. Again, it's cover. It's places that fish like to hide. Just watch you don't snag. The fish around those areas, if you can see rocks and dips and depressions in the bottom of the lake or the river, these are places you might want to take a look at and might want to target, okay? Again, trees and stumps is another good area. Again, cover. Fish love cover. If you're out in open water with no weeds, you probably will not find them. Fish love cover. Again, watch where you're casting. Take a look around. You'll probably see fish swimming in and out underneath the trees. You might want to fish around them. I guarantee there'll be something down there. Whether they take your lure or not, I can't guarantee that. but you've got a very good chance of catching something in those areas. Okay? So points with access to deep water. That's another area. Fishing off of ledges. If you're a bass angler, you know, and a pike angler, you know that you go find a ledge where if you're sitting in a kayak or a canoe, you can look down and see where the water goes down deep. These edges are also very good for fishing. All right? So whether you're on the shore or whether you're in a kayak or canoe, all of these things can be put to use to help you locate fish. Like I say, can't guarantee that you will catch one, but your chances of catching one will go up exponentially than just standing on the shore, throwing it out in water and not knowing where you're going. All right? So look for these characteristics when you go fishing. But remember the things I told you in the beginning of this video. Make sure you're not in private land. Make sure you're allowed to fish in that lake, that your local regulations are allowing you to fish in that lake. Whether you understand the regulations or not, the law enforcement aren't concerned with that because they say, hey, you're a responsible adult. You should have an idea of where you can go and what you can shoot for, okay? So I hope this has helped you out a little bit. So when you get out fishing, if you're already fishing, great. You can take this information with you. If you're just starting fishing and just starting the new season, keep these in mind. There's a ton of videos on YouTube that tell you what to look for. But the biggest thing to remember is you don't give away your fishing spots. All right? I won't. Don't ask me. But 92% of you that watch this channel watch from the United States, not Canada. So some of you might know where I'm fishing and some of you might not. Half the fun of fishing, the fun of fishing is catching a fish, yes. But also, it's fun to do a little bit exploring and go looking for a neat fishing hole too. All right? So this is Sharon saying, until the next video, tight line.